and we're live.
Okay, very good. Hello and a warm welcome to the Healing Healthcare Authors Tour with your host, Sharon Weinstein, and myself, I'm Dina Rettinger. And we are the co-authors of this book called Healing Healthcare, Evidence-Based Strategies to Mend Our Broken System. Nurses remain the backbone of healthcare, but little's been done or even studied or remedied for this system in crisis. If this is not addressed now, humankind will suffer. The book is packed with solutions to the problems that plague our healthcare system today, the issues that lead to these troubling sentiments among our prospective nurses. Nurse leaders share their experiences, their thoughts, their evidence, but their strategies, proven strategies to ensure that the health of our healthcare. You'll find actual steps for fixing the system that's suffering in silence. We must get this book into the hands of making those decisions. But before we start, I want to acknowledge you and I want to thank you for joining us today. We've got viewers from all over the globe, so please use the chat and let us know where you're from. And certainly comment as we replay, and we will save this recording and replay it in the future. But today I've got a very esteemed guest, and we want to welcome Byron Carlisle. So welcome, Byron.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
We're really happy you're here. And you've got a chapter that's championing creativity, and it's part of our workforce section. Today, Byron comes to us with an undergraduate degree from the University of Missouri-Columbia, Sinclair School of Nursing, an MSN in Administration from the University of Texas Tyler in 2022. A published author, accomplished speaker. His passion since embarking on his leadership journey has been nursing retention and nurse staffing ratio. He's a member of the American Association of Critical Care Nurses, the American Association of Neuroscience Nurses, and Texas Organization of Nurse Executives. Boy, are we thrilled to have you, Byron. So welcome. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sharon.
Okay, thank you. That was a great intro of Byron, who really is responsible for a wide area within neuroscience. As you mentioned, from sleep to psych, that's a huge plate to fill. That involves a lot of retention, a lot of staffing, a lot of engagement, a lot of everything that we all talk about in this book. So we're excited to welcome you. I know that David Wyatt recommended you to me, and I was thrilled to pieces. Tell us why you said yes. Why are you involved?
Yeah, when Dave approached me, he knew that we had done some research in the neurointensive care unit, and we had collected data from 2016 all the way through 2023 and published a few papers on those in the Journal of Neuroscience Nursing. And we felt like it aligned with the mission of healing healthcare. I wanted to contribute and add to the body of evidence in hopes that that I can make an impact on bedside nursing in the future. So within those studies, we had tracked on both shifts, both 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., the number of patients that we had, so our census, the number of nurses that were scheduled on that shift and that were present on that shift, the number of nurses that were floated in, the number of nurses that were floated out. We took into account the number of triples that we had on the floor, the number of one-to-one patients that we had on the floor, the number of open staff members that we had on the floor. And then we compared that with our quality indicators. We looked at patient satisfaction, staff satisfaction, and the retention rates that we had when we had adjusted our staffing ratio from one nurse for every 1.75 patients down to one nurse for every 1.5 patients. And then we did a similar study in 2022 because we had continued to collect that data, and we felt like it was really important to publish this data and share the evidence that we had experienced going through the pandemic with staffing and what, the centralized staffing model that we utilized at our hospital. And that's what I thought was pretty unique about the chapter that we published in Healing Healthcare was that the data that we utilized or that we published for the staffing ratios kind of shows that as we went through the pandemic, we ended up overall becoming about 4.3 FTEs shorter than what we were running with prior to the pandemic.
That's a huge finding.
And numbers drive it all, don't they? It's all really about the numbers. It's about the data. It's about how we use that data to, you're right, impact both staff and patient satisfaction. Dina, do you have another question for Byron?
I do. You offered some interesting numbers related to the use of partnerships, patient acuity levels to deploy the RNs. Tell us why this is such a critical factor when scheduling your nurses.
Yeah, we going through the pandemic, we looked at trying to set up a model to help us predict our future census. Within the neuro ICU, we were roughly 75% of our patient population was elective surgical cases. And so when we approached our bio committee, we thought that we would be able to help predict the number of patients that would be on our department floor, but unfortunately, it wasn't successful. Long story short, but so we continue to explore the different partnerships and relationships that we have for the acuity and the number of nurses that we have to try to schedule nurses. And so we looked to AACN and found that the information that they had published recently on staffing guidelines and healthy work environment to be extremely beneficial. So standard number 3 was one that really caught our eye. It discusses the acuity tool model where charge nurses can utilize an acuity tool. Well, what they were discussing was utilization of an acuity tool, which we use, right? So one where a charge nurse will go and talk with the bedside nurse and say, tell me about your patient. They use that information and look at the acuity tool and say, okay, we think your patient's a 1-to-1. And so then for the next shift, they pair them or they put them in a 1-to-1 situation, or, this patient's acuity matches 1 to where we can pair you with another ICU patient. And it's based off of evidence-based practice as well. And we had been utilizing that since roughly about 2014. But hearing Sarah Delgado talk at NTI in May, what they actually mean with the utilization of an acuity tool is more about having one that's kind of built into the electronic medical record that pulls information that is being documented on orders that have been placed, and it then will help calculate the number of hours that the nurse is predicted to be at the bedside. And so if you have 2 ICU patients and one of them is requiring 6 hours worth of care, and then you end up in a situation where you're paired with another ICU patient that is requiring 9 hours worth of care, then you can quickly see how that does not align with safe staffing. And so we got back from NTI, talked to our informatics team, and found out that there is a manager within our hospital that's already trialing this on her department floor and absolutely loves it. At first, she didn't think that it was going to be very beneficial, but you can tweak it. If it's not a one-size-fits-all model, it's one that, based off of, say, a neuro ICU, if you're doing continuous NIHSS exams on your patient population, then it'll account for more time at the bedside. And if, you end up seeing that, the model only says that it takes 2 minutes to do an NIH, and that it takes significantly longer than that, then you can adjust it to where then it'll kind of allow the charge nurse to mix and match patients with the nurse's assignment. And it will tell the charge nurse that, this isn't, going to be feasible for the patient or the bedside nurse. And they've had a lot of really good success with trialing the acuity tool within the electronic health record.
That's
So
really
is
good.
that acuity tool part of the AACN Essentials? Is that part of that model?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay,
So that
because
was,
I know that that's a big factor right now. Everybody who talks about workforce and well-being within the workplace talks about aligning that with the AACN essentials.
Yes, ma'am. And so then the
It's okay.
and but yes, there's obviously different electronic health records that are out there, and I think each of them have their own specific tool that can be utilized within. And then there are some that are obviously built through Excel spreadsheets and that sort of thing. So, but obviously utilizing one that's built within your electronic health record that can pull the information directly and keep out the manual calculation on the charge nurse and take that off their plate. Obviously allows them to make more evidence-based decisions as far as
Right.
staffing goes.
This is going to make a huge difference in your hospital with everything that you've got charge of. If this really, comes through and makes a huge difference. Now, the correlation will be with retention and engagement and, this happy factor, this bringing back the joy of nursing. That's one of the things that we've heard many times is they want to have the joy of nursing to come back.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And when you look at the data that we presented within Healing Healthcare, and you look at some of the turnover rates that we display, you can see that when you are able to retain your nurses, you do get quality of care, continuity of care.
You do.
And with the utilization of these tools that we were discussing, some of the feedback that our manager had received was that tenured nurses feel energized coming back to work, which was, she was beaming with joy when she was telling me this. And so we really look forward to it.
That's huge because there's such a knowledge gap. And Sharon and I talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
From the time that the pandemic started to now, you can see that. And being a patient most recent in a hospital for quite a few weeks myself, there was a big gap in knowledge. And they had to go find somebody to teach them to do certain things that, 10, 15 years ago, that was not the case.
No.
So it really is, if we can keep our tenured nurses, continue to create that mentorship and not lose the knowledge is so vitally key to the success of our future and healing this problem that we have in this broken system.
Yeah. What you've talked about, Byron, actually takes predictive analytics to an entirely new level and is so exciting for me. And I know for Dina as well.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to give away all of the nuggets. We don't want to give away the gold because we want people to pick up Healing Healthcare.
Yeah.
Which, excuse me one second, I should have had it in front of me, but we want people
I've got
to
mine.
pick up Healing Healthcare and read it. We want them to be a part of the newsletter that's coming out, of the website, which is healbrokenhealthcare.com. We want them to engage with us on a higher level. And so if I had to ask you, what is one key takeaway from your chapter that is going to really have an impact, something that you want everyone to know? What might that look like?
I would say to keep sharing your ideas, stay collaborative, and just keep trying. When very similar to what I was talking about earlier, where we tried to go to the bioinformatics to come up with a predicting model for staffing and safe staffing, and it didn't work out. From talking and with my colleagues and having great mentors that were saying, keep trying, don't give up. We ended up finding, the AACN standards and looking at, our national organization that helps lead us to kind of guide us in the right direction for trying to find a different model for safe staffing. And so the key takeaway would be just that, to just keep trying, collaborate with your colleagues and don't give up until you find an answer.
Yeah, before you close us out, Sharon, I want to tag on to something that Byron said is very important. This book has 28 authors in this book. There's no reason why you can't pick it up and try something different. If something doesn't work, try something else, but don't stay status quo because it's going to kill the system in general. So I wanted to go back to what you said, Byron. Keep on trying different things. If it doesn't work, pivot. Back to you, Sharon.
Right. And for our viewers, I just wanted to touch base with you about the fact you said that you work in the area, you're responsible for psych to sleep and everything in between. You talked about the fact before we became live that you have 13 managers and that they have their own staffs and whatnot. How many beds are involved so that our viewers can relate to this?
So we have 24 intensive care unit neuro ICU beds. We also have 23 inpatient psych beds. We also have 12 epilepsy monitoring unit beds, 16 acute stroke unit beds, 32 neuromedical surgical beds, and then we run 6 beds overnight in the sleep clinic. So all in all, we have about 388 FTEs within those that help us staff and take care of patients within those departments.
And to put that into context, that is the size of some of the rural hospitals with which I've worked in the past. That might be 100 to 125 bed hospitals with that kind of staffing, but this is your bailiwick. This is yours.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're responsible. You're accountable for making sure that this all works, which is why we need to heal what we already have. Take the best evidence from this book and from our brilliant contributing authors, yourself included. Pick what works for you.
Yep.
But you're right. Try something. You're absolutely right. I'm glad that you said that. Okay. Listen, it's time for a close and an invitation for all of you to join us again next week as we welcome another one of your peers to the program. Please, please do reach out to us. Do follow us. Do go to healbrokenhealthcare.com. Get on the mailing list. Learn more about the book, about the interventions, about the recommendations, and please, please be engaged. We want to thank you, Byron, for joining us today. You've been a huge asset to the book, and certainly you're making a big difference in terms of neuroscience, nursing, and beyond. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all.
My pleasure.
See you, everyone.